Welcome to the Cinematic Tabletop Bolt Action 3rd Edition tutorial series. If you are new to Bolt Action, or indeed Wargaming in general, this is a great place to start, as the series kicks off with an overview of the system and introduces the basic requirements to get a game up and running. If you are already familiar with Bolt Action, commentary will be provided as to the changes between this edition and the previous one. This series will be uploaded piecemeal to the channel for easy reference, with each video focusing on a specific facet of the rules. If you're interested in seeing more, be sure to bookmark the playlist they will be added to. So what is Bolt Action? Bolt Action is a World War II themed tabletop miniatures wargame in 1/56th scale, where battles are fought typically by 2 players with platoon to company sized forces. To ensure an equal and balanced game, the forces assembled are generally chosen according to a system of points, allocating a fixed value to fighting units of different types and quality. Dice are rolled to resolve the dynamic and uncertain elements of combat, such as shooting and morale, and add the essential tension to the game that gives it a certain level of drama and a tremendous amount of replayability. The rule set is streamlined and elegant enough to learn quickly for tournament play, or, if you're like me, for narrative, campaign, and friendly casual play. Battles can be set in just about any of the theatres of war in the 1939 to 1945 time period, with Axis armies facing off against Allied forces. Or if you like to downplay the historicity of the setting, you can pit Soviets against Americans, Blitzkrieg Germans against late war Gurkhas, or even SS against Luftwaffe. It's really up to you. Some people call this a beer and pretzels rule system, though I prefer to think of Bolt Action as a cinematic wargame, as it encourages bold actions to be undertaken in order to achieve a given scenario's objectives. Sensing the push faltering, Cole heroically charges straight at the enemy.
I'll go! You cover me! Let's get him!
And emerges victorious. There is enough detail to retain the characteristics of combat in World War II without getting too bogged down in the minutiae of equipment and machinery. Before we continue, anything and everything presented in this and forthcoming tutorials can and probably will be updated and changed in future errata and supplements. With that said, let's get into it. If you're completely unfamiliar with miniature wargaming, there are a few things that seasoned players mightn't even consider mentioning, perhaps being so obvious as to not require highlighting. Such an assumption will not be made here, and so I present to you the very basic essentials required to play a game of Bolt Action. Being a miniatures wargame, you'll want to get some toy soldiers for your armies. As Bolt Action is a World War II wargame in 28mm scale, you have quite a wide selection of manufacturers to choose from, and with 3D printing getting ever cheaper and of higher quality, your horizons broaden by the day. I recommend the Warlord range of minis, particularly their recent plastics range that have some fantastic sculpts that are highly customizable. All you need to do is snip off the various pieces with some clippers, and then with a decent bottle of plastic glue, assemble them in any pose that tickles your fancy, within reason. And don't forget your handy dandy craft knife for scraping off mold lines and sprue nubbins. The actual various armies will be examined in a future tutorial, so I won't be getting carried away too much in that regard here just yet. A battle needs to be fought on a battlefield, and for Bolt Action, this involves a 6-foot by 4-foot playing surface for a typical game. Just like the real battles of World War II, Bolt Action is a game of maneuver, so space is needed for an engaging game. If you are limited as to how many models you can field, or simply don't have the space, a smaller playing surface area might be preferable, say 3 by 4 feet, especially if you have very little scenery. Speaking of which, scenery is a key component of a good game of Bolt Action. Depending on the theatre, you might scatter just a few boulders and craters on the tabletop for a battle in Tunisia, or conversely pack as many ruined buildings onto the playing area for an authentic feeling skirmish in Stalingrad. A gaming mat can also spruce up the tabletop, ranging from cobblestones, grassy fields, swamps, or any of the biomes where battles took place during the war. Scenery in all its forms can either be purchased pre-made and painted, or require assembly and painting by you. But if you're like me, there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction gained in building a piece of scenery from scratch. If you have the time and patience, this usually ends up being the least expensive way to beautify your tabletop, and there are many tutorials available online to instruct you on how to go about doing this in the best way.
Shall I get cracked on? Come on!
So, that covers the miniatures, playing area and scenery, but what about the other trappings necessary to actually play the game? 6-sided dice are an absolute must. At least 10, though more would be preferable, as you'll be rolling a lot of these to determine the various randomly generated outcomes within the game. A dice tray in which to roll them helps keep the dice away from the undersides of nearby couches and prevents potential bumping of minis and scenery. Bolt action order dice are critical to the game, as these provide 2 important functions. Each unit in bolt action can be given 6 different types of actions called orders. Once an order has been given, an order die is placed next to the activated unit to show what it is doing and that it has indeed been activated.
Oh, blimey. Sorry there, Bess. Thought you were Jerry.
Secondly, bolt action does not use the traditional I go, you go format, where one player activates their entire force, resolves actions, and then the next player does so. Rather, to simulate the unpredictability of battle, each unit is assigned an order die, which is then placed into an opaque container, such as a sack or a cup, given a shake, and then one die is drawn to activate a unit of that player's choice. The color of the dice should be sufficiently different so that it is clear whose die is drawn, and Warlord Games have a wide variety of official order dice for this purpose. Regular 6-sided dice can be used instead, or chits, or whatever other substitute is at hand, as long as they are the same size and shape so that they are undifferentiated from each other in the container. Another important game piece is the pin marker. These are placed next to units when they are hit to indicate the stress and strain of being under fire.
Get your head down!
Which in game terms reduces their morale and fighting effectiveness. Once again, simple dice can be used as pin markers, though Warlord Games also make custom markers for this purpose. There are also other options such as making your own or buying custom markers from third-party suppliers found online. While not essential, templates and tokens are useful for measuring such things as high explosive diameters, keeping track of hidden units, areas targeted for artillery bombardment, and so on. A laser pointer is useful for determining line of sight, with the line laser particularly handy for working out lines of fire and the like. Last, but certainly not least, you'll want a decent tape measure and possibly a flexible ruler for ease of use when long distances aren't involved. I might quickly add that starter sets are available for purchase that contain a little bit of everything you'll need to get a game underway. So that covers the basics. Starting with the next tutorial, we'll get into the actual nuts and bolts of the game in earnest. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to see more.